Hi, good morning. Welcome to my Wednesday devotional. I'm so glad to be back, and I'm so thankful that my husband very kindly went ahead and recorded last week's video on his own and then told me while I was we were actually driving down to Georgia, my family and I, to go see my aunt. Luckily we did see her, and then she passed away, by the time we returned here. So I'm very blessed that we did get to see her, and she recognized us, and it was as she was beginning the process of passing away. So thank you all for your patience, and thank you to my husband who stepped in on his own. So that's really great. I know us ladies know how that feels when our men step up without even asking. So I'm just so thankful for my husband. And I'm thankful for all you guys that have, stepped up and also given me prayers and words of encouragement privately. So thank you very much for all that. All right. So let's get back to Esther. I think we're getting back to normal here in our routine, and it's starting to warm up outside. Woohoo! Which means I can go back outside. Maybe by that time we might be done with Esther. We'll see. But anyway, back to Esther chapter 6. My husband did covered verses 7 through 10, and I'll go ahead and read that, and then the 2 for this week. We're in the part where Haman is talking to the king, because the king asked, what should we do to, show someone that I care, and Haman who's his right-hand man, gives him a suggestion. Verse 7, and Haman said to king, for the man whom the king delights to honor. Verse 8, let royal robes be brought, which the king has worn, and the horse that the king has ridden, and on whose head a royal crown is set. Verse 9, and let the robes and the horse be handed over to one of the king's most noble officials. Let them dress the man whom the king delights to honor, and lead him on the horse through the square of the city, proclaiming before him, this shall it be done to the man whom the king delights to honor. Verse 10, then the king said to Haman, hurry, take those robes and the horse, as you have said, and do so for Mordecai, the Jew, who sits at the king's gate. Leave out nothing that you have mentioned. All right, so that was last week. And so the story continues, verses 11 and 12. So Haman took the robes and put them on Mordecai, placed him on the king's own horse, and led him through the city square, shouting, this is what the king does for someone he wishes to honor. Verse 12, afterward, Mordecai, he returned to the palace gate, but Haman hurried home, dejected and completely humiliated. All right. So Mordecai, he's always at the palace gate, right? And that just sort of shows that he's not included on the inner circle like Esther is, right? So he's right at the gate. He's just hanging out at the gate, waiting for things to happen and watching Esther and passing messages, right? Because he can't come in. So interesting that Mordecai's like, I just go back to doing what I'm doing. It doesn't really faze him that he got to ride on a horse and be all that, right? Because it just doesn't really matter to Mordecai. But to Haman, he goes home, he hurried home, feeling dejected and completely humiliated. Now, if you're a guy like Mordecai, that none of that matters, so you ride around on a horse, going, I wouldn't care either, So I think it's interesting. To Mordecai, he's like, well, no big deal. I just go back to my spot at the gate. Life continues, no big deal. But for Haman, who's image conscious, Haman really, he has all the characteristics of a classic narcissist, a grandiose narcissist, right? Where it's all about me, and I'm all that. So the fact that he didn't get to be all that, Haman was just like, oh my gosh, this is like PR nightmare, right? So he races back home, and he's humiliated, he's dejected. Oh my goodness, I'd hate to see the conversation with that wife, right? Oh, wait till next week. Because how does his wife and his so-called friends react to his complete and total, utter humiliation of the century? Yeah. good. So, have you known someone like Haman, who's basically a narcissist, and his comeuppance is just at the beginning of what's about to happen? It gets a lot worse, but that's the little hint. But for right now, at this point in the story, you know, things are starting to take a big dive for good old Haman, right? So remember, what must go up must come down. So now he's beginning the descent and decline of what's about to come. Now you have to ask yourself, well, is God going to come in? You know, maybe God is coming in. Maybe God is trying to give Haman a little smack, right, and saying, come on, because you know, at this point, instead of going home, you know, Haman could have, if he was a man of humility, could have just turned this around and been like, all right, I get the hint, you know, I'm just gonna change my ways right now, and then we wouldn't even be reading about this. There wouldn't be an Esther story, right? But oh no, not Haman, because he just thinks he's all that. Instead, he's got to go plot another story of how he's gonna fix his image, because he just doesn't get it right now. He's extremely thick-headed, and will he get it before it's too late? We shall see. Okay, well, thank you very much for watching. I appreciate all of you, and we'll find out what happens next week. All right, thanks for watching. All right, bye-bye.